Hello, this is Detroit AllyCat. I am so happy to be back with you guys. Thank you for coming back to my channel and watching me. If you've never been here, I do spooky stories, true crime, witchy stuff. I'm kind of weird. I'm just a little tiny channel in a big sea of weirdness. So today I have a spooky story for you. So without further ado, let's get spooky. So some people might find this case a little disturbing. I don't know why you would, because every case that I cover is really disturbing. But I'm just gonna warn you that this case is a little bit more, I mean, it's just as brutal as some of the other cases I've had, but there is torture, rape, and mutilation, dissection, and murder. So if any of those things make you feel a little weird, then maybe you shouldn't watch this. So let's talk about what the case is. This is going to be called the Hello Kitty murders, and that in itself is really, really weird. I don't even understand how something like this happened. I can tell you that I've never run across a case like this. Not in the hundreds of thousands of cases that I've looked over have I run across a case where it was this weird. But I will tell you this. It involves one of my favorite drugs to talk about because they make people act absolutely bonkers. It involves a drug called ice, which is a form of methamphetamine, but I think it's like cheaper to make and it's more intense, more hardcore. But before we dive into the case, I want to tell you why this is going to be done on Spooky Saturday, because you're probably thinking this is true crime, and it is true crime because it does involve a murder, but it involves the paranormal as well, and that is how it started. So the names of the people that I'm going to tell you are, I'm not even going to attempt some of them because this is all going to be based in Hong Kong, and it's I don't speak Chinese. Nope. I really honestly do not even know that much about Chinese culture. So I can tell you the victim's name, and the assailant, he had a nickname, which I'll be happy to use, but it begins with, and just bear with me, I know I keep sidebarring all over the place, because ADD is a wonderful thing. The ages of some of these people are like 5 different ages on different sites, and I can't read Chinese, so I can't transcribe, the court documents, and so some of the information is like off on the numbers, but the information is the same, if that makes sense, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So in 1999 in Hong Kong, which is in China, but it's not China because they're going through some kind of, they're Hong Kong, okay? And China is China, and then Hong Kong says they're not China, but whatever. That has nothing to do with this case. I'm just going on because I'm crazy, I guess. Anyway, so this girl goes into, they say the Chinese police, but we're going to say the Hong Kong police, and she says that she is being haunted, and this woman keeps coming back to her room. She lived in a women's reformatory school. They said that one thing said that she was 13, one said she was 14, one said she was 15. I'm gonna just say she's 14 because we'll even it out in the middle. She's a 14-year-old girl, and she told the police that she was being haunted by this woman who kept coming to her room in the middle of the night and was asking for her head back. So the police were kind of like, you need to go home, little girl, and go back to sleep because you're crazy. And she's like, no, but you don't understand. The reason that she's asking for her head back, she said that the reason that she saw this woman coming, she said the reason that she was being haunted by this woman coming to her room and saying she wanted the head back is because she participated and witnessed in the murder of this woman, and her conscience, or the woman haunting her, made her come to the police and tell them that, this happened. So the police were like, okay, well, now you're talking about a murder. You're not just talking about a ghost. We're going to go ahead and go check this out. So they go to this apartment complex, and they go to the apartment room that this girl had told them to go to. And they immediately noticed the smell of death. Now, this smell of death is very important. Maybe you guys have never smelled death. Maybe you have. If you're prior law enforcement, that's pretty much like your indoctrination into being a police officer. Or maybe you were in the military and you smelled death. Anyway, death has a very specific smell. It's very bad. Death just smells really bad. And the officer said that the smell of death was so bad that when they entered the apartment room, their eyes started tearing up. When they went into the room, they found entrails and blood and all this stuff. But what they found, which I'm not making this up, I'll show you a picture of it. Now, there are other pictures online, and I will warn you that if you do go look up this case online, and some of you will, because some of you are very morbid, curious people like me, I'm going to tell you right now, some of the pictures you will see, you cannot unsee. And I don't say that often. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back. Inside this apartment, there was all of this Hello Kitty, like, dolls and decorations and stuff. And why would that be in there? I'll tell you. But the next thing they saw was a gigantic mermaid Hello Kitty doll. And it was a weird looking doll because it was pretty big, and it smelled pretty bad, and it had blood all over it. So they went ahead, they decided that they should just go ahead and check out the doll. And inside of the doll was a human head, skull. And that is how they know that a murder was committed. So we're going to talk about whose head it was, how this happened, all this stuff. Let's start from the beginning. There was this girl, her name was Man-Yee. I really hope that I said that right. I think that I did, just because, that was kind of easy. But if I didn't, and you're Chinese, and I have upset you, I am sorry. Man-Yee was a 23-year-old woman, and they say that she was a nightclub hostess, but it's implied that she was a sex worker. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, I've said in all my videos before, I have no problem with sex workers. So please do not think that I'm saying anything bad about sex workers. But it is a high-risk profession. You end up meeting high-risk people. Man-Yee, she had a pretty rough life. She was brought up in an orphanage because her parents didn't keep her. Obviously, she didn't have a good home life. I guess she had been in a few bad relationships. She started working in the sex industry, which I think was what it meant when they said she was a nightclub hostess. And I think nightclub hostess is code for brothel worker. But she ended up getting addicted to ice, which is a very, very powerful form of methamphetamine. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know too much about ice, except that I know that it's a stronger version of meth and it's cheaper. And For a while there, like, ice was like a big thing. That's like all you heard about. But I do know a lot about meth. And I know that meth, like, just makes you absolutely bonkers. It makes you do things that you would never do. And if she was a sex worker and she found that difficult to do, being on something that altered your state of mind would not be uncommon because it would help you get through it. So she was hooked on ice, and she ended up marrying a man who was also hooked on ice, and they ended up having a child. Really loved her child. There's pictures of it. I don't know very much about her child, but she could not support her family doing normal things. I'm guessing because they were hooked on ice, and she went back to the industry of, you know, being a prostitute. I actually read that she was a prostitute the entire time she was pregnant, which I kind of find a little odd, but maybe some people like that. But she ended up, while she was working at the brothel, I'm just gonna call it brothel, she got hooked up with this guy. His name was Man-Lok. Man-Lok actually was a crime boss, and he was hooked up in this gang called the Triads. I really do not like to talk about gangs on my channel because I just don't. I have experience with gangs from my family, and I just find them, to be honest, kind of intimidating. I wouldn't say I have any experience with Asian gangs. I know a lot of biker gangs. My uncle was a biker, and didn't end well for, well, both of my uncles were bikers, and I don't like to talk about it because they have weird things, and this case proves that. It was like the Triads was very, like, one of the big gangs in Hong Kong, like one of the biggest gangs. And I guess this Chan Man-Lok was like one of the bosses. There were like two bosses, and he was one of them. And because he was one of the bosses, they gave him like a nickname, which was Big Brother. Everyone called him Big Brother. And, you know, he was like, he had a certain amount of respect in the community because this is who he was. So basically everyone knew not to mess with him, and they knew, you know, treat him right so you won't get all your fingers cut off. But what happened was, I don't think he ran the brothel, but I think he had like women that worked for him that made him money. He sold ice. He ended up meeting Man-Yee, and they hit it off, I guess, so to say. She was one of his favorite prostitutes. He had a lot of sex with her. He sold her a lot of ice. They probably exchanged services for the ice and the sex, and they saw each other a lot. And they would like have like these drug nights where they just did a lot of ice and had a lot of sex and, you know, stuff like that. Now, what is weird is it said that Man-Yee had been brought up in an orphanage, but it said that her aunt was very, very sick. So I don't know how she hooked up with her aunt if she was brought up in an orphanage, and it seems kind of strange that she would do that while she was like on ice, because people on ice probably don't think right. But regardless, the information that I have says that Man-Yee was, her aunt had cancer and she needed treatment, while her and Chan, aka Big Brother, were having one of their like sex drug nights. Then she decided, like, while he was not, I don't even know what he was doing, just being on drugs or going to the bathroom, she took his wallet, and it had like, now see, the numbers are a little weird here. It says like $1,000, $2,000, 1,000 yen, 4,000 American dollars. I don't know. It was a big amount of money. And she took it because she was going to pay for her aunt's cancer treatment. At least that's what the story said. I don't know if that's true. She was on ice, so maybe she just took it to do some more ice. Regardless, she decided while she was on drugs that she was going to steal a crime lord's wallet, which is very brave, if you ask me. But she did it. When Big Brother came around and Chan, Big Brother, realized that his wallet was gone, he immediately knew who did it. And so he, like, hunted Man-Yee down and was like, give me my money back. And she was very afraid of him, so she gave him all the money back. And he felt like he had been disrespected. He felt like everybody, like, his street cred was, like, messed up. Like, no one would respect him if he let her get away with doing that, even though she paid him back. So he got two of his henchmen, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce. And they were like, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna, like, hunt this girl down, and we're gonna do some, like, we're gonna prostitute her out. But before he did that, he told Man-Yee, like, hey, I need you to pay me, like, $4,000 more, or some big, large sum of money back as interest for what you did. And so she ended up paying that back too, or at least that's what I read. She might not have, and that might have made him come after her. But regardless, one of the stories that I read was that it wasn't enough, and he kept raising the price, and he just made it so high that she was just like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna hide from him. So she started working the streets because she is a prostitute, and he hunted her down with his two henchmen, and they brought her to the Hello Kitty apartment. And I guess they, like, beat the crap out of her, and Big Brother Chan decided that he was going to prostitute her out and make money off of her. Now here's the thing, if you beat a woman up and you, like, do awful, horrible things to her, she's not going to look pretty, and she's not going to, like, be a good sales pitch for people to want to have. Nobody wanted to purchase her because she was beat up. He decided that instead of selling her because she was unsellable in her battered, beaten state, that they were going to just keep her around and torture her. Now, here is where it starts to get really gross. You don't want to hear what I have to say. This is probably time to, like, check out and come back at the end and see how it went down. Apparently, Chan, Big Brother, he had a girlfriend, and she was 14 years old. The same girl that went to the police. And she would come and she would hang out with them, probably, like, be his prostitute and be pimped out and do ice with them. But what they would do is they would torture Man-Yee for about a month, and the torture that they did to her was, like, some of the most heinous torture that I have ever read about. They would defecate and make her eat that, and and if she didn't act like she liked it, they would beat her, so she had to pretend that, like, she enjoyed it. So then they would also, like, stab her and beat her, and in her open wounds they would urinate on her. They would rape her repeatedly. They decided to take, like, these, like, pieces of plastic and, like, melt them and put them on her feet and, like, pull skin off, like, really nasty stuff. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. And they would make Big Brother's girlfriend do things like, she said she had to, like, go to the bathroom in a box, and they forced Man-Yee to eat it. And she would also participate in the torture and the rape and the beatings. Like, they beat this girl bad. Like, really, like, the worst things that you think that could ever happen to you, they went way past that. Like, I don't even know. It was bad. It was really bad. and they were doing like a lot of ice while they were doing this to her. So they, they're on drugs. So they probably don't have any like sense of like, this is messed up. And, this guy, Big Brother, he's like a crime boss. So no one's going to say like, stop, because they were probably scared that that would happen to them. And I'm not defending them at all, because like, there are some things you just have to say, no, I'm not gonna, like, I would have like told the police, packed up, and got out of town. But so they continued this for a month. They decided that they were hungry. They went out, they got some food, they came back. Chan decided that he was going to rape Fan Man-Yee, and he noticed that she was very cold, and he figured out she was dead. And he shoved her in a bathtub, and this orange pus was oozing out of her body. And they had to have taken a picture of it, because what they did afterwards doesn't correlate with the picture of her in the bathtub with the orange pus oozing. So they must have took a picture of it for like a trophy or something. But the picture, like, it's bad. And then they decided, well, you know what? We have to like do something. And what's really crazy is at the same time that Fan Man-Yee died and they shoved her in the bathtub, the police were underneath their apartment, and they somehow knew this, investigating a rape in the apartment complex. Like, what kind of an apartment complex is this that all this stuff is going down? I'm guessing it's like a bad part of town. And the funny thing is like, I think the apartment complex was called like the romantic apartment. I don't know. Maybe it was like a brothel. I don't even know. So they decided they had to dispose of the body. So they cut the body up into all these parts, and then they decided that they were going to like boil the body, and they cut off her head and they baked her head. And what's even grosser is they decided that they were hungry, so they cooked noodles next to her boiling body parts. And the girlfriend said that they used the same spoon to stir their noodles as they did Fan Man-Yee's boiling body parts. And I'm pretty sure she had some kind of like infection. So I'm wondering if they got a little sick from that. They went ahead and they took all the parts that they boiled and did weird stuff to, and they put them in like bags, and they threw them somewhere. I think they disposed of them like in like garbage cans or all over the city. But they took the head and they put it inside of a Hello Kitty doll and sewed up the body. And then they decided that they were gonna just leave the apartment. Like, screw it, this is it, we're gone. But they were on ice, so instead of like sterilizing the apartment and cleaning it up, like, they didn't really dispose of the body because there's blood and guts everywhere, and this head in a Hello Kitty doll. Like, the police found all this stuff, and they tracked down the 3 guys, and I guess they were not found guilty for murder in the 1st degree. They were all found guilty for manslaughter, because apparently they couldn't put them to tie it together. I don't see how they couldn't have, because they had a witness. But the girlfriend, the 14-year-old girl, she was given immunity because she ended up telling the police what happened. The 2 henchmen, they supposedly got life, which equaled 20 years, but they got out like 7 years later. So like, awesome, you got those 2 guys out. And Chan, Big Brother, he was given life without parole, but apparently he got out in 2019. There is a man walking around Hong Kong that can cut you up and boil you and put you in a Hello Kitty outfit. And you know what? If he's watching this, good for you. I'm proud of you. It was pretty gruesome and disgusting. And what's crazy is that, like, because of what happened in the apartment, nobody wanted to live there anymore. So everybody moved out except for this one couple. Like, the apartment owner actually ended up lowering the rent, and what happened is, like, this hair salon bought like the first 2 levels of the building and turned it into a hair salon. They said that in the building, their hair salon, they kept finding these little Hello Kitty dolls all over the place, and it scared them so much that they ended up leaving. And that is the story of the Hello Kitty murder. I hope you enjoyed it. I feel like it was pretty brutal and weird. And, you know, I feel like today is kind of a brutal day, so I felt like telling a brutal story. Honestly, though, I kind of wanted to tell the story because I don't think a lot of people have ever heard of this story. At least I don't know anybody who knows of this story. It's been covered a lot, but the facts are all over the place. I tried to get the best facts for you and combine them. And and Man-Yee's son actually ended up getting adopted. I actually read about that too. Kind of a sad story. I don't know what else to say except I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Tell me what you think about this story. Tell me if you will ever look at a Hello Kitty doll the same way. I will post some pictures in here. I hope you didn't find them too disgusting. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I did take like a couple of days off because it's been a stressful year. Like, just everything has made me just like, you know, just wanting to stay off social media. But I'm back and I have some really great stories that I'm gonna cover. You should watch them. Alright guys, as always, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye!